Hello viewers, you're welcome to this tutorial. This is an implementation of arguments. In the previous tutorial we dealt with arguments introduction. Okay, so if you really want to know what an argument is, go back to the previous tutorial. This is an implementation of what an argument does within our function. If you have no idea what a function does, go to the Python basics in my channel at the playlist and just scroll through. You will see functions, learn through the functions and come back to this code. But if you are cool with it, no problem. Then let's just jump into how to implement an argument. Now I said earlier in the previous tutorial that this, if I have a value and second value, okay, equals 6, and I try to have a function here, and I don't try, I have a function here, and I say result equals first value plus second value, okay, and I have print result. Alright, and I call my function. Now what is happening within this code? If I run it, I have 10. 10 simply means 4 plus 6 gives me 10. These variables I have at the outer scope. Outer scope means they are outside my function. So this is inner scope, this is outer scope. Okay, so I have these two variables at my outer scope and I call them within the function. It doesn't mean they're arguments. Arguments are inside the parentheses. This is the parenthesis, the open and close bracket, the open and close bracket here. So these are the parentheses. So argument, now print also has this parenthesis, the open and close bracket. Okay, so I have these two variables here and I've called them within my function. They are not argument unless I put them within my open and close parentheses. Okay, so let's just jump into them. So I have to come here, and now there are two things you need to understand. That this is where I called my function, and this is where I declared my function. Okay, so this is calling my function, declaring my function. Python emphasizes more on declaring the function. So this is kind of the mother of the code, and this is when the mother goes to the market and coming back with some whole lot of puzzle. So anything you identify, any argument you identify within calling the function has to be predefined in declaring the function. Okay, let's, if you go back home, they'll tell you you brought in two arguments. Where are they coming from? Okay, so first value and we have second value. So I have passed in two arguments when I am calling my function. Now the arguments are passed in where you are calling the function. So these are called passing arguments, okay, or sending argument. These are arguments that are sending values from where you are calling the function to where you declare the function, meaning that anytime you call a function, the declared function is executed. So this function is not worked upon unless you call it. Okay, all right, so if I run this code, there will be an error telling me that calculation takes 0 positional arguments, but 2 were given. Why? Because whilst I was calling the function, I added two values that, hey, send those values home. But way back at my home, I have not classified that I will be receiving 2 visitors. So I have not said in my home that there will be 2 visitors. So 2 visitors, yes, that's the word. 2 visitors. So if I go home with 2 visitors, it's inappropriate. Function or Python will say that, hey, you never told me you'll be receiving 2 visitors. So no, forget about it. So what if I tell Python that, okay, my function is to expect 1 visitor, okay, and I run the code. Now instead of saying takes 0 positional argument, in the previous one it takes 0, okay, but now we're saying calculation takes 1 positional argument, but 2 were given. What it means is I've identified in my home that I'll be coming home with 1 argument, 1 visitor, but I'm working with 2, so there are no room for them. So I have to classify and say second value. So I run the code and I have 10. It works perfectly. So what it means is these things are called passing argument. These things are called receiving argument. Okay, so anytime I classify anywhere that I'm calling my function that I want to send this argument, then I have to be able to write them at where I declare them and say I want to receive 2 arguments. Okay, so that's the basic concept of what you have to know. So, and Python also uses its argument or functions, prioritizes its names of argument over every other name. So if I put the cursor over this, you see they say shadows name from outer scope, meaning they are saying this first value is already declared outside. So why are we using them? But there will be no error, it works perfectly. But Python prioritizes its argument over this, so it will not use this ones. Okay, so let's try to implement it more. Let's see what happens. If I print first value and I print second value, okay, so this will kind of print what is within. and we have the same 10. Okay, we have the same, oh, did I say 10? We have 4 and 6. I'm not adding them, so we have 4 and 6. So in our code, now it is not advisable, it is inappropriate. You cannot do this. You cannot say 4 and 6 here, because this point we need arguments to use them within our code, and 4 and 6 are not variables to be used within our code. Now if you watch my tutorial on variable, I made mention of variables advantages. Okay, so Python's arguments, or Python's receiving arguments, are not supposed to be mere values like 4, like 6, like true, false, strings. No, you cannot use them. So whenever you're using Python's receiving argument, you need to use variables, okay, like first value or second value. Okay, but anytime you are dealing with sending arguments can be integers, can be strings, can be anything. So sending arguments can be 4, 6. Okay, it will work. Or let me use other values, 10, 20. If I run this code, I have 10 and 20. So you see, now these values, which is the sending argument, can use anything at all. They can use hello and hi. Okay, hello, hi. It works. Okay, but at this point where I'm receiving the values, I have to use variables. I can't be using hello, hi, and those kind of stuff. And there is one thing, I don't know if you saw, but function prioritizes the name of its argument over any other one, because I have first value here, second value, I have first value, second value. Okay, but when I'm printing, it doesn't print this first and second value, it prints the hello and hi, because this hello and hi has been assigned to first and second value. So it prioritizes this name over every other name. So if I run the code, you have hello and hi instead of 4 and 6. Okay, so these are the basic things you need to know about how functions works with arguments and every other thing you need to understand. So these are the basic things you have to know on how they use the argument. And moreover, the names of this one, this is the final thing you have to know. Check it out. First value, second value. Okay, the names of this first value and second value, the names of the receiving argument has nothing doing with the names of the sending argument. Any value I'm sending here should correspond with the names of what I'm sending. Okay, but any value I'm receiving here doesn't need to be corresponded. So I can change this to value 1 and I can change this to value 2. So Python even advises that we use different names so that the names will not kind of coincide with this, but there's no problem, it will work perfectly. So during the display, remember to change the names from value 1 to value 2 to value 2. Okay, so if I print this one, I have 4 and 6. So this is how Python actually works. So these names are not dependent on this. So you can choose to use the same names to try to give you some underlines for you, but no problem, your code will work perfectly. But if you want to use different variable names, no problem with that. This kind of makes your code simple, but the only disadvantage to this is you end up having so many variables. If not, you can choose to use first value, second value, so you will not bother yourself having so many variables. Okay, and so bear in mind, if I print first value and I print second value, now this first and second value, because they are not the names of this one, it prints this and this before this value 1 and value 2 becomes this and this. Okay, so that is it, 4 and 6, 4 and 6. So even if I change this one to 49 and change this one to 48, it prints the first 4 and 6 and comes to 49 and 48. So one disadvantage, or one thing you have to be careful about if you use different names, is that make sure that you then don't call the name of what is here, or you then don't call the name of the variables you have here. Make sure you indeed call the names of what you've put in here, so it doesn't confuse you. You end up being confused, wondering what you have to do and other stuff. So this is the basic thing you just have to know. Now there is also one final thing I have to tell you before we go to the next tutorial, that Python uses positions to assign its variables. So this is position 1, it assigns to the first argument I have. This position 2, it assigns to the first value I have. So that's why those assignments. So if I have another value called 97 and I come here and say value, okay, I just want to use value, and I print value. Now 97 will not be assigned to 1. No, they use position. So first goes to first, second goes to second, third goes to third. So that's how Python works with it. So we have the same thing. So this is the basic thing you need to know for this tutorial. Now thank you for viewing. The next tutorial we're going more advanced. So subscribe to the channel if you have not. Like the videos if they are good for you.